Hello there. Now you may be curious as to why you see me and not the recording. Well, I recorded the session, but apparently not the audio. Mistakes were made, and for that I apologize. However, this does allow me to explain a situation I have run into regarding audio and have been forced to act on this week either way. Apparently, most of Cinderclaw's music and ambience tracks are copyrighted music. Not the small punches or spell sound effects, but just the musical tracks and ambience sounds. Terry, who plays Ceruleana, or Siri, my wife, just so happened to see it the other day in my YouTube studio, which is where you manage your videos for anyone who hasn't uploaded to YouTube before. In there it showed that if I were eligible for monetization, which I, all things considered, one day hope to be, I wouldn't have been able to monetize due to copyrighted music being played within the video. So, I have moved to Cinderclaw. I've moved from Cinderclaw to Artlist.io. I'm not sponsored when I say this, by the way, but they honestly do have the best sound effects, audio, ambience, and tracks for any content creator out there. The license is permanent for the music you have while you have your license, and it is forever. I highly recommend it. But with all that said, I will give you a recap of what happened during last session. Quick note, I am beyond pissed at myself for messing up the audio on this session because it was such a good one, and I'm still kicking myself in the dick for it. Either way, it's early morning on the 2nd of Kuthona, 4719 AR. It's a nice, rainy 67 degrees as the party gets ready to head off to the Cinderclaw Mine, which they had learned about from the Gripply in the previous session. Kaiser cooks up some Daminal rations before they head off, of course. They make their way through the forest until the party sees a large creature sitting in a nest that's on the ground. Kaiser and Siri slowly move up to get a better look at it. After a second inspection, Siri identifies the creature as a Vrock, a large, vulture-like humanoid demon with red glowing eyes, black wings, and vicious-looking claws that stands 8 feet tall. They are known for their hellish screech that could freeze a man in fear. The group was uncertain on whether or not they could handle the creature alone, but that's when they noticed a caged dinosaur in the distance. Since the party knew he wouldn't cause any alarm, they trusted Kaiser to try and use the caged dinosaur to their advantage. Kaiser told the party that should all go well, that they would know when to attack. The party nodded at the crazy idea that just might work. Kaiser then slowly but surely made his way over to the cage. As he got closer, he re-inspected it. It was crudely assembled, and with enough time could be reopened after the lever was loosened enough. He approached the cage, and the dinosaur noticed him messing with the cage. Kaiser was no druid and struggled to keep the dinosaur calm. This alerted the Vrock, as it could be heard approaching the cage. Kaiser dived quickly back into the tree line as to not be seen by the Vrock. The Vrock approached the cage and screeched at the dinosaur, which was larger than itself, to shut it up. Unfortunately, Kaiser was a bit too close as the screech froze him in place for a time as well. The Vrock returned to its nest, and Kaiser tried once again to calm the dinosaur, and this time found success. The cage was flung free and the dinosaur began to charge at the Vrock, but before it got too far from Kaiser, in an acrobatic moment of daring and speed, he grabbed the tail of the dinosaur and mounted it as it charged back towards the Vrock. Bulat told the party that it was time, as they exited the tree line to attack the Vrock. Even with a numbers advantage, the Vrock was still a deadly creature. It screeched over and over and over again, as well as casting the spell Mirror Image, making it harder to land a strike. Its beak piercing and claws raking at the party as well as the dinosaur, which was identified by Siri as a Mokele Mbembe, or Mokele for short. But Rhizor turned the fight around, with the Vrock failing against his paralyzed spell. This not only flat-footed the creature, but effectively made it lose one of its turns. Within a minute later, the Vrock was defeated. It melted into a black, boiling ooze as it returned to its plane of hell. The mine was located in the center of the clearing. It was a huge pit made of a mudded clay. The party made their way to the edge to see the situation. There they saw the violet glowing dragon pillar, Charuka, boggards, and these weird blue hovering eels in the air. Siri identified them as Nanette and voidworms from the chaotic plane known as the Maelstrom. The party then made their way around the mine to look for any more reinforcements that could interfere during their inevitable mine encounter. Along the way, Dama pointed out a large mound of dirt nearby a small cabin the group was closing in on. The group shrugged it off as dirt that was removed to make the mine. Not knowing how loud he was speaking, Rhizor said, "Yeah, who cares?" A kobold voice responded, "Hey! Who's taking an unauthorized break? No one should be up here." Rhizor attempted to sound like a kobold, deceiving the voice into not raising any alarm. But his voice cracked halfway through speaking. Nothing, boss." In a moment's notice, the kobold opened the front door to the cabin and stepped out. It was a gray-scaled kobold, with staff of fire in one hand and an alchemical vial in the other. The kobold made a quick somatic action as a spark of fire ignited in the air near Rhizor. It had casted Fireball. Thrown off guard, Rhizor was just a moment too slow, and his counterspell attempt failed. The fireball scorched him, as well as some of the other party members, but worst of all, the kobold screamed, "Intruders!" This not only alerted the mine workers, but also woke up 4 hungry mud spiders that all had been waiting idly in the mound of dirt nearby the party. They were surrounded in seconds. Another fireball was cast, but Rhizor was prepared and froze the fireball in midair, turning it into a beautiful ice crystal that fell and shattered into hundreds of pieces on the rain-soaked grass. The spiders surrounded Rhizor and began biting and poisoning him. Kaiser ran over to help, but was too late. Rhizor had been knocked into a dying condition, as poison was also now coursing through his body. Without aid, Rhizor would surely die, but Siri ran over and casted her hasty healing spell, Benefit, denying death's door to be shut upon Rhizor, but this too put Siri out of position, and she was then surrounded by the spiders. Bulat wouldn't have it, though. He pried open the legs of the spiders apart, giving him the one moment he needed to grab Ceruleana and get the hell out of there. The party ran as fast as they could, away from the mine, hopefully losing them on their way back. Exhausted, the party made it back to camp so that they could rest before deciding how they were going to deal with a massive problem like the mine. Since Dama had luckily not been injured throughout the day's encounters, he volunteered to take a longer first shift, which ended up being the only shift that was taken so the party could sleep in and rest up. And with that, the party had successfully ascended to 7th level.
You have ascended.
After the party was rested and gathered around the campfire the following morning on the 3rd of Kuthona, they came up with a plan. Rizor had unlocked the secrets to using the same spell the Aranis had used days prior, Dimension Door. He suggested that most of the party distract the camp, and that he would swiftly use it to get to the edge of the pit, use the Gravity Well spell to quickly uproot the pillar out of the ground, and then Dimension Door back to safety. The party agreed it was actually quite a sound plan, especially considering the source. Up until then, Rizor had always been one of the headstrong members of the group. But the group prepared themselves for the operation as they waited for nightfall. Kaiser scouted out most of the perimeter beforehand to inform the party of the situation ahead. Bulat, Dama, and Kaiser would distract the Charuka and Boggards on the south side of the mine, while Rizor and Ciri were stationed in the west. Ciri casted the message spell.
Angel, this is Astro. We are ready to open the door when you are.
Solid copy, Astro. Moving in. Kaiser then nodded to Bulat and Dama as they made their charge into the southern area of the camp. It was a battle to remember. Bulat, Dama, and Kaiser held off against 11 and even eventually 12 enemies. As Rizor teleported near the cliffside, with the spell ready, Rizor casted Gravity Well, ripping the dragon pillar from its place and sending the mine workers flying into the center of the Gravity Well, but of course also sounding the alarm. Phase 2 of the plan, exfiltration. Angel, the door has been shut. How copy? Angel? Angel? All good here. The bull got himself into a bit of a mess, rectifying the situation and moving out, responded Kaiser. Had it not been for a heal spell from Kaiser and Dama, Bulat could have easily died. But such is the life of an adventurer. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Bulat had effectively soaked well over 100 damage throughout that encounter so that Dama and Kaiser could comfortably position themselves. Exhausted from the run through the expanse, the party once again found themselves at the camp. But this time, in high spirits. They had successfully destroyed the dragon pillar, and their plan went off almost perfectly. No one fell in combat, and the one spell they had put so much faith in ended up working out. With that, the session concluded with the party gaining 520 experience for defeating the entire mine, because I choose to do things that way as the GM. They missed out on a lot of loot, so I gave them the option of partial experience or loot. They chose experience. So, I do need to make a quick rant here about the encounter setup for this adventure path. It is the most discussed GM section in this entire adventure path, and let me tell you why. There are 12, well, you can't do that. There are 12 total encounters in the area. And 12 encounters is really no big deal as long as there's plenty of space or gating between encounters that can be done. But most of them in the Cinderclaw Mine, it's all one big open space. Most of everyone is within 80 feet of one another. And anyone can sound that alarm with the one exception of the rock demon. If the rock screeches or cries out, the cultists do nothing to render it aid. But that's it. Other than that, if any other encounter sounds the alarm, in my humble, merciful opinion, you're straight up fucked, man. You're fucked. To balance this out, I decided to allow the party to temporarily tame the Mokele Mbembe, just so they wouldn't get absolutely shredded by the Vrock. Granted, my party was 6th level when they made it to this area. The party's supposed to be 7th level when they come here. But that's one of the main issues with non-scaled content during exploration. The party can wind up in an area where they clear out a few enemies, thinking that the rest of the content will be within the same region of difficulty. but they could be very well walking into a potential TPK, which I've seen many groups that have TPK'd just to the Vrock alone. It's very difficult, just because that Stunning Screech has no cooldown. It can't be dispelled. It can't be countered, and it only has one freaking action. So even if you have 3 out of the 4 players survive the first check, he's going to see it doesn't stun the other one. Does it again. Doesn't happen. Does it again. Stunned out. They might get 1 action at best. Smacks the fuck out of him the next turn. Such a crappy... I'm not going to say it's a crappy design, but way too hard. It needs to be balanced. It needs to have a D4 cooldown or something. I understand why it doesn't have a D4 cooldown just because it's screaming, and if it can scream innately, it can scream innately. But ridiculous. But on the up and up, this has been resolved in Foundry VTT with the new scale to level function. Thank you. Foundry VTT. You know, the place where you get all of your tabletop needs taken care of. Gone are the days of Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds where it's crap. So, anyways, let me go ahead and actually give you a demonstration here. So, let's say the party is 6th level, and you want them to go against moderate encounters or encounters that you want to rescale to their level. But all your enemies, so let's say we want to make a moderate encounter. Party 6th level, and the only creature you have here is this 4th level Biloco Veteran, which is found in the Age of Ashes Bestiary, which can be found in Foundry VGT because it's awesome. Let's say the party is 6th level and you want them to go against modern encounters for a while, but your characters are all 4th level. A modern encounter, as we can see here, is 80 experience. So just for simplicity's sake, we're going to have 2 enemies that we want at the party's level, so that because if they're party level, it would be 40 experience per, and 2 of those would give it 80 experience, and then it would be moderate. So pretty simple. But the problem is, even if you made this creature elite, it only gets him to level 5. But we want him at level 6. Well, fear not here. We go to the Biloco Veteran. If we right-click it, there is a scale to level function. It comes with a dialog box here, and it says starting level. This is not a mythical creature. It is not going to be 24th level. So we want it to be 6th level. So just because we only need 1 level, you just do 6/6. If you need a bigger range, so like let's say you want to make a Kingmaker kind of setting where you have exploration and it's level 1 through 5 for the first zone. The other one is 4 through 8. Like you can actually say, oh, I want this between level 4 and level 8, and you can actually go below the creature's level, which again I could show you here, but we're not going to do it for the. We'll do it for the sure. We'll make him 2, and we'll end him at 6 because that's what we need him at. So blah 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 blah. You'll see it calculate real quick. So it has scaled it out. We come down to the bottom here in our actors directory because that's where we find actors. And you'll see that it's made at level 2, level 4, level 6, which we need it at level 6. And what you'll notice here is the values have been updated. You see it has 92 hit points. It's got higher perception. It's got better saves, better DC. Now, Liam, how is it doing all those awesome calculations for you? Well, that's a good question. In the Game Mastery Guide on page 59, it shows the base roadmaps for building creatures. The conversion tool is taking the values and ratios and comparing the creature's current values and ratios and shifting them to the appropriate values found in table 2.1 through 2.12 of the Building Creatures section in Chapter 2 of the Game Mastery Guide. Now, 1,000 apologies for the long rant, and especially for messing up the audio. I've recently learned, as of this recording, how to split the audio into multiple channels so that it will be easier to do projects like this, Cardinal Adventures in the future, and make it nigh impossible for me to not be an idiot and have the audio mess up like that again. But with that, thanks for joining today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new here. Welcome to the 14th session recap video. But welcome either way. Thanks for becoming a Cardinal. Use that Cardinal beak if you're already a member of the family, and smack that bell for me. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next actual video. However, if you like this kind of content for the sessions instead, let me know in the poll down below. Thanks, y'all, and I'll see you in the next video.